He said it across the kitchen island. He used the voice a 48-year-old man uses when he has finally decided he is the head of a household his mother still pays for. By Friday morning, I had sold something else first, and by the time he understood what I had sold, the kitchen island he had said it across was no longer his to lean on. Here is what actually happened. My name is Margaret. I am 75 years old. My husband Richard died in 2017. We had been married for 46 years. He left me a paid-off brick colonial in a quiet neighborhood north of the city, a small but well-managed investment portfolio that produces enough monthly income for me to live comfortably, and a thin gold wedding ring with a small flawed diamond he had bought in 1971 with the first 3 paychecks of his first real job. The ring was not, by any appraiser's measurement, valuable. It had cost Richard $312 in 1971. It was worth, in current dollars, perhaps $2,000. The diamond had a small visible flaw just below the table that Richard had laughed about for 46 years. He had said, "On our wedding day in October of 1971, Margaret, I bought you the most expensive ring 3 weeks of pay could afford. It has a flaw in it. I want you to wear the flaw on your hand for the rest of our life together. And I want it to remind you that I love you exactly the same way, entirely." And, with at least one visible imperfection, I had worn the ring every day for 53 years. It was on my left hand, on the Wednesday this story begins. I noticed, halfway through the conversation I am about to describe, that my son David was looking at it. He was looking at it the way a 48-year-old man looks at a piece of property he has been thinking about for longer than he has been admitting. In May of 2019, David had called me on a Tuesday afternoon. He had used the careful voice he uses when he is about to ask me for something. He and his wife Lauren had already decided I would say yes to. "Mom, listen. Lauren and I have been talking. Things have been hard for us this year. The business has been slow. Could we come stay at your place for a few months? Just a few months. We would help with everything. You wouldn't even know we were there." I had said yes. That had been 5 years and 6 months ago. In those 5 years and 6 months, David and Lauren had not paid me rent. They had not contributed to the property taxes, the utilities, the homeowner's insurance, or any major repair. They had, however, made themselves comfortable. Lauren had repainted the den in 2021 without asking me. She had reorganized my kitchen pantry in 2,022 inches, a way that put the flour and the sugar on shelves I cannot reach without a step stool. She had moved the small framed photograph of Richard and me on our 40th anniversary from the mantelpiece to the upstairs hallway. David had converted Richard's old study into what he called my office and moved Richard's leather desk chair, his oak desk, and his small brass desk lamp to the basement to free up some space. I had laughed each time I noticed something new. I had laughed because the alternative, calling my son and his wife what the evidence was beginning to suggest they were, had felt larger than I was yet willing to call them. By the autumn of 2024, the laughing had gotten harder. The week before the conversation I am about to describe, the dishwasher had broken. I had told David and Lauren at breakfast that the replacement would arrive the following week. Lauren had said, in the bright voice she used for things she had already decided I would agree to, "Mom, while you're at it, can we look at the refrigerator too?" The kids' grandparents on Lauren's side just got the most beautiful Sub-Zero. It would make such a difference in the kitchen. The refrigerator was not broken. It was 5 years old. A Sub-Zero, I knew without looking it up, cost between $12,000 and $18,000. I had said, "Sweetheart, the refrigerator is fine." She had said, "Oh, I know. Just for the kitchen as a whole, you know, if we ever wanted to sell." She had stopped herself. I had noticed if we ever wanted to sell. I had noticed the word we. I had not corrected her. That conversation had been 13 days before the Wednesday this story begins. It was 6:52 p.m. I was at the kitchen island, cutting a head of cauliflower for the soup I was making for dinner. Lauren was at the stove. David had just come downstairs from his office. He had a folder in his hand. He set the folder on the kitchen island. He said, "Mom, Lauren and I want to talk to you about something. Can you sit down for a minute?" I set down the knife. I sat at the kitchen island. He opened the folder. He turned the top page toward me. It was a contract, 3 pages. The header read, Residential Reverse Mortgage Counseling Application. The borrower's name was Margaret Whitfield. The recipient was a finance company called Silverleaf Capital Group. I looked at the form. I looked at my son. "David, what is this?" He took a breath. He had clearly rehearsed. "Mom, Lauren and I have been worried about your long-term financial situation. The house is your biggest asset. It's also more house than you need. We thought a reverse mortgage might unlock some of that equity now, while you're still able to enjoy it. The monthly payments could fund a lot of things. Upgrades to the kitchen, a new car, travel, and we could help you. This company, Silverleaf, they specialize in helping people in your situation." I looked at Lauren. Lauren said smoothly, "Margaret, the form has it at $320,000, about half the appraised value. Conservative, very safe. It would set you up for the next 10 or 15 years. $320,000 against a house I owned outright. A house that, with a reverse mortgage attached, would slowly convert through compounding interest from an asset I owned into an asset the lender owned in everything but name. When I died, the house would be sold to pay off the loan. David would inherit nothing. But David and Lauren would, over the next 15 years, have access to monthly payments funded by upgrades to the kitchen, a new car, travel. The proposal was not about my financial security. It was a plan to liquidate my inheritance, in advance, with my own signature. David, the monthly payments, whose account would they be deposited into? He looked at Lauren. Lauren said, "We thought it would be easiest if they went into a joint account, with you and David as co-signers, so you wouldn't have to manage them. We could handle the bills." A joint account, with David as a co-signer. I noticed that the room had gone very still. I noticed that I was holding the edge of the kitchen island with my left hand, and that my wedding ring was visible against the white quartz. I noticed that David's eyes had drifted to the ring, and then back to my face. I noticed that my hands were not shaking. I noticed that, instead of feeling angry, I felt something else. I felt, for the first time in 5 years and 6 months, seen. Not loved, not respected, seen in the way that a wallet is seen by a thief. The clarity was, in its own strange way, a relief. I looked at my son. "David, I am not going to sign this. The house is mine. The equity is mine. I will not be extracting it for monthly payments to be deposited into a joint account with you as a co-signer. The proposal is unacceptable. Please take this document off the kitchen island." David's face did the thing his face used to do when he was 11 and had been told no by his father. He said, "Mom, don't be like this." "Sweetheart, I am not being like anything. I am declining a proposal." "Mom, we are trying to help you." "David, you are not trying to help me. You are trying to extract $320,000 from my house with my permission. I am declining to give the permission. If you have ever been handed a folder by your adult child that looked like a kindness and felt like a contract, tell me in the comments. I want to hear from every woman who has been in this kitchen. Now, here is what happened next." Lauren stepped in. "Margaret, listen, I know this feels overwhelming. We just wanted to start a conversation, to open it up. We have been very worried about you. About long-term planning. About what happens if you need care, if you need—" "Lauren, yes. If I need care, my income, which has not been touched in 7 years, and which has accumulated more than enough to fund any care I might require, will pay for it. I am not financially fragile. I do not need a reverse mortgage. The proposal is unnecessary. It is also unwelcome." Lauren's face changed, a flicker of something less sympathetic than what had been there a moment earlier. David, who knew his wife better than I did, saw the flicker and panicked. He said, "Mom, listen, the house is too big for you. The taxes, the maintenance, the upkeep, it's a lot. We have been carrying you for years on this stuff." I set my hand flat on the kitchen island. "David, repeat that last sentence." "Mom, I just meant—" "Repeat it." He swallowed. "We have been carrying you, on the house." I waited. I waited for him to hear his own sentence. He did not hear it. "David, you and Lauren have lived in my house rent-free for 5 years and 6 months. You have not contributed to the property taxes, the utilities, the homeowner's insurance, or any major repair. I paid for the new roof in 2022. I paid for the HVAC replacement in 2023. I paid for the $800 dishwasher last week. I am paying for the cauliflower I was about to cut. Tell me, sweetheart, in what specific sense you have been carrying me." A long silence. Lauren said, "Margaret." I think David meant emotionally, through the loss of Richard, through the transition into widowhood. Lauren, Richard died in 2017. You and David moved in 23 months later because the business was failing. You did not move in to carry me through anything. I have carried you for 5 years and 6 months. I have done it because I love my son. I have done it for too long because I did not want to be the kind of mother who said no. Tonight you have asked me to convert that arrangement into a reverse mortgage that would liquidate the only thing of real value I have left to leave my grandchildren. I am declining. The topic is closed. David was looking at the kitchen island. Then he looked up. He looked at my hand. He looked at the ring. He said, very quietly, "Mom, if the answer is no, if you really won't help us, then maybe Mom, listen, I know this is going to sound harsh, but maybe you should sell the ring. If you want to keep staying here, if you want this arrangement to keep working, you are not using the ring. It is just sitting on your finger. It would help us. It would help all of us." I did not move. "David, did you just tell me I should sell my wedding ring if I want to keep staying here?" "Mom, I didn't mean it that way." "David, where is here? Whose house is here?" A long silence. "Yours. It's yours. I know it's yours." "Then explain to me, sweetheart, how I could be a guest in my own house." He had nothing. I stood up from the kitchen island. "David, Lauren, I am going to bed. I will not be eating dinner. Please clean up the kitchen. The saffron on the stove has burned. I will be available to talk tomorrow morning, but not about this. The topic of the reverse mortgage is closed. The topic of the ring is closed." I walked out of the kitchen. I went upstairs. I closed my bedroom door. I sat on the edge of my bed. I looked at my left hand. I looked at the ring. My hands began to shake. I let them shake. I picked up the phone. I called my lawyer. Her name was Cordelia. She had drafted my will after Richard died. She picked up on the second ring. "Margaret, you have called me at 7:30 on a Wednesday night exactly 0 times in our entire 11-year working relationship. Tell me." I told her. The folder, the reverse mortgage, the $320,000, the joint account, the ring, the phrase, "if you want to stay here." When I had finished, Cordelia did not speak immediately. Then she said, very quietly, "Margaret, your son told you to sell your wedding ring as a condition of staying in your own house." "Yes." A pause. "Margaret, has David ever formally, in writing, been added to the deed?" "No." "Has there ever been a written lease, a tenancy agreement, or any documented financial arrangement that would give him any claim to the property?" "No." A longer pause. Then Cordelia said, in a voice I had only heard her use twice in 11 years, "Margaret, I have been holding something for you since April of 2017. I think tonight is the night I bring it to your house. I will be there tomorrow morning at 9. I will bring 2 things. The first is a document Richard asked me to prepare 3 months before he died. The second is the paperwork to evict your son and daughter-in-law by certified mail." Cordelia, acceptable. "Margaret, you are going to sleep poorly tonight. The shaking is the body finishing a task the mind has been doing alone for 5.5 years. Let it shake. By tomorrow morning, it will have stopped." We hung up. I let it shake. I went to sleep at 11. I slept the way a woman sleeps when she has, for the first time in 5.5 years, decided what is going to happen next. Cordelia arrived at my house at 9 a.m. on Thursday morning. She had a leather portfolio and a notary in her car. Lauren, in the kitchen, watched her come in. David was at work. The children were at school. Lauren said, "Margaret, is everything okay?" "Yes, sweetheart. Cordelia is here for some routine paperwork. We will be in the dining room. Please do not disturb us." We sat at the dining room table. Cordelia slid an envelope across the table. The envelope was cream-coloured. Richard's handwriting on the front. "Margaret, for the day you need it." I broke the seal. I read, "Margaret, if you are reading this, it means our son has finally done something that you cannot continue to laugh through. I am sorry I am not there. I have been worried about this for a long time. I am writing this from Cordelia's office in April of 2017, 6 weeks before my diagnosis. I have been watching David and Lauren, particularly Lauren, for the last 4 years. I have not said anything to you because I did not want to be the kind of husband who criticizes his son's wife to his wife. I am writing this letter instead and signing the documents Cordelia has prepared and trusting that on the day you need this, you will be ready to use it. Margaret, whatever has happened, you do not need to negotiate. You do not need to compromise. The documents include the following. First, a 30-day notice to vacate, pre-drafted, ready to be served by certified mail today. Second, a deed restructuring that transfers our house into an irrevocable trust, with you as the lifetime occupant, and with our grandchildren as the beneficiaries on your death, accessible to them at age 25. David is not in the trust. Lauren is not in the trust. The house skips them. Third, a separate small letter from me to David, sealed, which you are to deliver to him on the day you evict him from our house. The letter is a father's last word to a son who chose his wife over his mother. You may give it to him whenever the timing seems right. Margaret, about the ring. I want to mention the ring specifically. I do not know what they will have asked you for by the time you read this. I want you to know that whatever they asked for, the answer is no, including the ring. Especially the ring. The ring was $312 in 1971. It is worth nothing on the open market. It is worth everything on your hand. Wear it on the day you give them the notice. Wear it forever. I love you. Take the house back. Take the kitchen back. Take the den back. Take David's office back, my old study, and put my desk back where it was. Cordelia has a moving service on standby. They have been paid since 2017. Richard. I read the letter twice. I did not cry. I looked at Cordelia. Cordelia, he thought of the desk. He thought of the desk, Margaret. He told me in 2017 that the desk would be the first thing they moved. He said, "Margaret will want it back in my study within a week of evicting them, and she will be too tired to organize the moving by herself." He paid the mover's deposit that afternoon. "Cordelia, let us begin." We worked at my dining room table for 3 hours. I signed the deed transfer. I signed the trust documents. I signed the irrevocable assignment of the house to the Richard Whitfield Family Trust. I signed the activation paperwork for the grandchildren's sub-beneficiary structure. I signed the certified mail notice to vacate. The notary stamped each document. The deed transfer was registered with the county at 1:15 p.m. The certified mail was sent at 1:47. By 2 p.m., on Thursday, 18 hours after David had told me to sell my ring, David and Lauren had 30 days to vacate. The house belonged to an irrevocable trust they could not reach. The grandchildren were the eventual heirs, and Richard's desk was on its way back to his study. I would tell them at dinner. I told them at 6 p.m. I had made the cauliflower soup. I had set the table the way I used to set it when Richard was alive. Cloth napkins, 2 candles. The small silver salt and pepper shakers my mother had given us as a wedding gift in 1971. I served the soup. I waited until everyone had taken 3 spoonfuls. Then I told them, I told them about Cordelia, about Richard's letter, about the irrevocable trust, about the grandchildren, about the certified mail that had been sent at 1:47, about the 30 days. I told them calmly. I did not raise my voice. When I had finished, David's face was the color of wet paper. Lauren had set down her spoon. David said, "Mom, you can't do this." "David, I can, and I have. The transfer is registered with the county. The certified letter has been mailed. The trust is irrevocable. None of these things can be undone." Lauren said, "Margaret, this is insane. We have been here for over 5 years. This is our home." "Lauren, it is not your home. It has never been your home. You have been a guest in my home for 5 years and 6 months. Last night you asked me to sign a reverse mortgage. Last night David told me to sell my wedding ring. Those two requests, made in the same conversation in the kitchen I bought in 1978, were the last requests this house will hear from either of you." David said, "Mom, the children. What about the children?" "David, the children will live wherever you choose to live. They are welcome at this house every other Saturday, beginning the second Saturday after you move out. I will drive to pick them up. I will return them." I reached into my cardigan pocket. I pulled out a sealed envelope. I handed it across the table. "This is from your father. He wrote it in 2017. He asked me to give it to you on the day I evicted you from our house. Read it tonight, not at the table." David took the envelope. He held it. He looked at me. "Mom, Dad wrote this in 2017. He worried, sweetheart. He didn't know. He worried. There is a difference." He nodded. He was crying. He put the letter in his shirt pocket. David did not stay calm overnight. I had expected him to call a lawyer. I had not expected him to call one that fast. At 9:47 Friday morning, 15 hours after I had served the certified notice, my phone rang. It was an attorney named Brennan Holt, who said he was representing my son. His voice was the careful, professional voice attorneys use when they have been briefed by a panicked client at 8 in the morning and have not yet had time to verify the underlying facts. He said, "Mrs. Whitfield, I am calling on behalf of your son, David. We are reviewing the documents you provided last night. We believe there are grounds to challenge the trust transfer on the basis of undue influence, as well as procedural issues with the eviction notice. I would like to set up a meeting between you, David, and our respective counsel to discuss a resolution before this escalates further." I sat with the phone in my hand for a moment. Then I said, "Mr. Holt, please hold for 1 minute. I'm going to conference my own attorney into this call." I put him on hold. I called Cordelia. I conferenced her in. I said, "Cordelia, this is Brennan Holt. He represents David. He is asserting undue influence and procedural defects." Cordelia said, very calmly, "Mr. Holt, good morning. Before you proceed, I want to make sure you have the full factual record. Margaret transferred her house into an irrevocable trust on her own initiative, after consulting with me alone, in my office, on the basis of documents her late husband prepared in April of 2017, 6 years and 7 months before any of the events of this week. There were no other parties in the room during her decision. There were no beneficiaries present, advising, or in contact with her during the consultation. The notary on file was selected by my firm, not by any beneficiary. The deed transfer is supported by a complete file of contemporaneous documentation from 2017, including her husband's handwritten letter, the original trust drafting notes, and an instructional memo he signed and witnessed at the time. Undue influence, as I am sure you know, requires demonstration that a beneficiary exerted pressure on a vulnerable testator at or near the time of the transfer. The beneficiaries in this case are 2 minor grandchildren. They have not been in contact with Margaret about this matter. The transfer cannot meet the legal threshold for undue influence under any standard a probate court would apply. As for procedural defects in the eviction, the certified mail notice was issued by my firm with all statutory requirements met. including the precise 30-day timeline and the property description. There are no procedural defects. Mr. Holt, I would respectfully suggest that you speak privately with your client about what your fee for pursuing this would be, against what his realistic prospects are. I will be happy to send you the full documentary file by end of business today, so you can make that conversation an informed one. A long pause on the line. Then Brennan Holt said, I would appreciate the file, Miss Marlowe. Thank you. We will be in touch. He hung up. Cordelia said to me, Margaret, he will be in touch in about 10 days, and the touch will be a letter conceding the matter. He is a competent attorney. He will see, when he reads the file, that there is no case here. He will tell David. David will be furious. Then David will accept it. The 30-day clock continues to run regardless of what they file. I sat at the kitchen table. I looked at my left hand. The ring was on my finger. I thanked Cordelia, and we hung up. The letter from Brennan Holt arrived 9 days later. It conceded the matter, as Cordelia had predicted. David did not call me about it. Lauren did not call me about it. They simply began packing. David and Lauren moved out 26 days later, 4 days early. The desk came back on the day they left. The movers, 2 men in their 50s, who had been holding Richard's deposit since April of 2017, set the desk back in the study with the same careful gentleness they had used to remove it from the basement. They put the desk where it had always been. The leather desk chair, the small brass desk lamp, the framed photograph of Richard and me on our 40th anniversary, restored to the mantelpiece downstairs. When they had finished, the older of the 2 men paused at the front door. Mrs. Whitfield. Your husband paid the deposit on this move in April of 2017. We have been holding the file for 7 years and 7 months, he told me when he came in. On the day this move happens, my wife will have just done the hardest thing she has ever done. I want you to be gentle with her. Do not ask her where the desk goes, just put it back. I thanked him. He left. That night, I sat at Richard's desk in his study, and I wrote 1 line in the small notebook I had started keeping the morning after the kitchen island. My son said sell your ring if I wanted to stay here. So I sold the arrangement instead, the small, ambiguous one in which I was his mother on his terms. And I learned at 75 that the most generous thing my husband ever did for me was the 6 weeks in April of 2017 when he sat in a lawyer's office, alone, before he knew he was dying, and made arrangements for the moments he was afraid I would not yet be ready for. Sometimes dignity does not arrive with shouting. Sometimes it arrives on a Thursday afternoon in a desk being carried up the stairs, while a daughter-in-law packs the last suitcase in a bedroom that was never, in any meaningful sense, hers. I closed the notebook. The ring was on my finger. It will stay there.